Talk about Apple today too, Mike. Good morning. My name is Vincent Lanci, and it's 8:02, 11:13, and we are here with the Gold Fix. Subscribers, um, if you would be so kind as to ask questions if you have any. Um, I don't see why you would have any, considering I have all the answers. But if you ask questions in the news Q&A, hopefully I will get to them. If not, I'll get to them in the actual chat when I go back in there. Listeners who are not subscribers, uh, we don't have a provision for you to ask questions yet, but that's an incentive to join now, isn't it? All right, we're looking at the news Q&A chat. There's a link there for the story. Uh, Yesterday's trades. I'd like to note that yesterday was a big Apple day. And although this is the gold fix, we're going to talk a little bit about Apple because I have a strong opinion on it, even if it is after the fact, since I am an agent allegedly of the Swiss National Bank, as Larry likes to tease me. But before we get to the fun stuff, we must mourn gold's behavior. Hey Vince, why is gold not significantly lower? John, I think you're teasing me. Um, what, it wasn't lower enough for the last 2 days? Um, that's a that's a you sound disappointed. It's only down, $20. We'll get to that actually. Why is gold not significantly lower? Gold is not an efficient market, and by that I mean it doesn't move continuously, or what we talk about in options terminology. It doesn't have continuous liquidity. It lends itself to jump diffusion models, which means in common sense trading parlance, it tends to do nothing until it does something, and then it's too much. I think there might be some support in gold right now. To answer that question directly, John, again, everything that someone says to you is an opinion. My opinion is, considering the other external factors, gold is not slammed lower today because of optimism on the trade front. Now, I'm not saying that optimism is warranted, but let's go to the gold story. And John, I'm not going to be able to see your follow up questions because I'm not really good with screens here. But again, gold fix, the end is or isn't near. Okay, so there's your cute headline. QT and trade, that is all. And what I mean by that is, and this actually is, I'm actually addressing what John's asking is, um, if you were to boil gold down into two major drivers, it's not to say it can't have other drivers that affect it from moment to moment, whether it be elections, whether it be, a meteor that's going to land on Earth. But the two major drivers of gold right now are QT and trade. QT is a depletion of US dollars out there, it's a drainage of dollars that is bearish for gold because gold is denominated in dollars. There are less dollars, the dollar gets stronger as a simple rule of mechanics. And trade. Trade has a positive and negative effect. As simply put as I can, if there is some sort of perception or hope that there's trade resolution, that is bullish for gold. If there is a negative that comes out on trade, however it manifests, I'm talking about words. We think there will be no trade deal. That's bearish on gold. We think there's hope for a trade deal. That is bullish for gold. And by trade deal, I'm referring specifically to the China US issue that's going on. And this story, which I put as uncategorized because I'm a knucklehead, um, gets a little bit more into that. So why don't we roll through that? And if I skim through some things, you can read them because I do tend to speak circuitously. Yesterday, gold showed no signs of bottoming, and there is nothing else to say. But I'll say something anyway. We watched the teens again. QT remains trade wars are an anchor meaning an albatross around its neck for Monty Python fans. And anyone who wants to buy gold must wait until their new allocations are in. Shorter term momentum funds and prop desks and play the micro moves. That is, we're getting to your question, John, and it actually embedded in the story. That is what we are seeing for now. Many short term players acting on hive mentality and being right. Okay, fine, you can read that. So far today, we'll get to actual live quotes, but this was done about 15 minutes ago. The dollar is down. Why is not gold up? Would be the obvious question behind, I think, the obvious motivation behind a legitimate, smart question by John. And the answer is The answer is one of three possibilities. We deal in handicapping probabilities. We don't deal in predictions, although we do try to predict once in a while. If the dollar is down, why is gold not up? Okay, this is very similar for equity traders when they see, oh, earnings are strong. Why is the stock not up? Well, that's because the dollar is down and well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm actually speaking opposite of what John said. Why is gold not lower? The dollar is slightly weaker and gold is slightly weaker. I think a fair question, and I'm not contradicting John, but a fair question is why is gold not up? Well, gold would be further lower if the dollar wasn't down. Um, but the point of if you believe gold should be lower and you're not paying attention to the dollar, or is for some other reason you think gold should be lower, maybe it's the yuan, maybe it's a technical level, maybe it's news that gold kills ash trees. Um, the answer is anything that's buoying gold or holding gold from crapping out another $10 or $20 is the immediate news yesterday that there's optimism on the trade front. So I always default, always is a strong word to use, but right now I default towards trade news. If I think I look at the markets, I say, oh, the dollar is weaker. Why is gold not higher? And then I look and I say, well, the trade news is hope for gold, and gold's not higher. Okay. Sounds to me like we're back in that secular bear market move. Now, to John's point, well, why aren't we $10 lower? And I will say to John, well, the day's just starting. It could be by the end of the day. You could also look at the other metals, John, and anyone else who's asking a similar question. Look at the other metals, the industrial metals or metals that have industrial personalities to them. Silver, precious and industrial. Palladium, precious and industrial. Platinum. The other metals are stronger. You could also ask, why are they so strong? Dollar's only down a little bit. So these metals, I would say definitively, I can say with a high level of confidence, I would press my bet if we were playing blackjack, are up because of trade hopes, and gold is just less down because of it. Okay. US dollar has heavy bias against most of the major emerging currency market currencies. That means the dollar is a little softer. I'm using Mark Chandler's words because I like the way he writes. But the pullback is shallow and the greenback's underlying strength is still evident. Fine. Events and data on deck. Again, there'll be more about this. Why isn't gold weaker or stronger? U.S. calendar of data is light. Three Fed officials will conduct OMO activities today. Yesterday, Fed official daily came out on the hawk side. OMO is open mouth operations. Most people think it means open market operations, but I will say, and I think a friend of mine from Small Gold says it as well. OMO means open market operations. Part of open market operations is increasingly open mouth operations. There's no data out today. We'll throw Fed officials at you and we'll see how the market reacts to it. Not necessarily gold, but everything. The Fed officials that are out today, of the three of them, two of them are definitely hawks, to the hawk side, I believe. And Kashkari is one of them. He will come across as a little bit of a dove. And he used to work for Goldman Sachs. Enough said. Trade talks. Why isn't gold a lot lower? If you feel gold should be a lot lower and gold isn't a lot lower, and you're not discounting the fact that the dollar is weaker, you should look at this. Reports indicate that Chinese Vice Premier Leo Hay, I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong, and U.S. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, I'm not sure I'm saying that guy's name right. He's the good cop, remember everyone, have resumed trade talks ahead of the G20 summit, where the two presidents will meet. Okay, so remember, we're back to good cop, bad cop. Read the tape. The tape is the way people speak. Mnuchin is the good cop. We're at the table talking again. And who's the bad cop? Kudlow. Either he's going to say something, or he's going to have something in his pocket, or he's going to say something on behalf of Trump, or he's going to say something to Trump, and Trump will say it in all caps or whatever. Okay, Brexit. Why gold cash for listeners? Actually, that's an answer to John. Gold, I would think, would be how's this? Considering the fact that the dollar is weaker, and considering the fact that the trade talks are positive, at least for the moment, I would expect, and the other metals are higher, I'm surprised that gold isn't higher. And that says to me, some people might say, well, buy gold because it'll catch up. And I would say, as a short term trader, no. Uh, that says to me, as soon as this is a Larry type of concept, if I see the dollar strengthen, If I see silver turn a corner and go lower, if I see copper lower, I'm going to sit on gold and short it. When I say I'm speaking hypothetically. I don't trade technically. I do love to trade the way I just described, but I'm not going to. It gets me in too much trouble. Um, Depending on the type of portfolios I'm running. And right now, I'm running the algorithm portfolio, and I'm testing regression models. So I don't want to get in the way and start having my own intuition uh, uh, color my objectivity. I'm not a high frequency trader directionally. Okay. So yesterday's trades. Today, yesterday's trade. Oh, there were no trades on our radar yesterday, though technicians would have been smart to sell rallies. At least two subscribers caught. I'm going to shout out to XDM and AMA. They actually traded from the long side. I think one of them, I'm not going to say which one. Uh, uh, I do know which one. Got a little impatient, waiting for gold to rally, which I think was smart. Um, and he put money, I think, in copper. Hope he did well on that. The other trader, other subscriber trader from across the pond, he also took a little bit of money out of a quick gold short, looking for a quick dead cat bounce, I would call it. I was encouraging of those as long as tight stops were tight, and looking for upside targets of 1220 on those trades would have been crazy, considering that it may get there, but it may take 3 weeks, and who knows if we'll be alive in 3 weeks. Other money. You can see for yourself news that China and U.S. trade talks are resuming, boosted sentiment, allowing those of you out there in the FX market trading the Aussie dollar and the Kiwi short term, we are short term traders, but I know that there are people out there with biases trading them in and out and carrying ongoing positions. I think Mike Strongen and John Hassiger might be two of those. The Aussie dollar and Kiwi have been a little bit stronger today on the back of trade news. So that puts them in the Chinese block. However, simultaneously, we'll get to that in a second, Chinese stocks are mixed, with Apple affecting a lot of their producers. Outside markets, oil. This is important. Prices reversed lower yesterday after Trump's complaints about the Saudi decision to export 500,000 less barrels a day. Brent is trading near 69, WT is 59. See learning moment at the bottom. I put Brent and WTI there because I think they're both important. I also think it's significant that the lower oil goes. I have been a person who says that Brent will come in more than WTI as the market goes lower, but that $10 spread has been really sticky. And Bryn Kelly has advised me that, well, I speculated and she confirmed I'm a genius, because I think I paid her $20 to say that I was right. Actually, no, she thinks for herself, and she reports. We decide. That's the way Brent operates. She knows her shit. Her point was that logistics and getting the oil out of the U.S. Are a big deal, which plays to something I believe that exporters of oil do not make for great economies. Importers of oil do. Asia. Stocks are mixed with concern that Apple may be reducing orders weighed on suppliers. In Europe, Italian stocks and bonds underperform. The EC may act since Italy's revisions to their budget. Okay, let me just stop right there. Italy is not Greece. As an Italian American, I am American, but I am very familiar with the culture. Kind of works like this, folks. Italy doesn't want to cut their budget and go into the whole austerity thing. The ECB says, as they did with Greece, you know what? If you don't do that, you're not going to be a member of the crew. We're not going to hook you up. We're not going to support you. And, Italy's a little different than Greece. Not a lot different, but a little different. My grandfather came from Italy, and one of the things he said to me was, over the years, was we would rather, we have no problem. I'm not saying Italy is a suffering country, but Italians are used to government changes. Italians do not trust government. And on top of that, they would rather have 20% inflation and have a nice big meal than zero inflation and live austere. My point is, do not underestimate the nationalist. That's not a dirty word. The nationalist or movement in Italy because Italians really don't like being told what to do by governments, especially governments not even in their country. So that's the fat chance comment. U.S. stocks, the early call for the S&P 500 is open a little bit higher. 200 moving average, day moving average for simplistic traders, which I am in the S&P, seems to be needed to stabilize the market. Tape reading. We're talking about Apple here. It's not really tape reading, but I think it's interesting because we had two people trade it yesterday. Larry, the Godfather here, traded it and took a profit, I believe. And Tom McEntee, who shockingly did not use 1,500 option to do it. I tease. Tom is an expert in using options both vertically and horizontally to express positions. Very complex stuff. I admire that in a man who happens to be insane. But he traded Apple from the short side, I believe, and did very well. Which is, when you see Tom do something straight up and simple, you pay attention. He's kind of like me in the sense that he works in probabilities. Apple. The reason I bring it up is Apple had three bad things happen over the last couple days. One, I believe, I could be wrong, they're not going to be uh, uh, admitting or submitting quarterly reports. I could be getting that wrong. Two, I can say with high confidence, they're not going to be reporting iPhone sales, which while seems to be a slap in the face to investors and transparency everywhere, is a huge problem for suppliers of parts, which is because they can't gauge. And the third thing is, lo and behold, a couple days before earnings, the Swiss National Bank was a big seller of Apple. Shocking. I guess there's no SEC governance when a national bank is buying. And no, Larry, I do not work for the Swiss National Bank yet, but my resume is on its way. Technicals via more analytics. I apologize for the size, but it's written really small because it's top secret. I would direct you to upside and downside. Writings from the lower call. Get long on decent penetration above 1202 and look for decent strength. He uses the word decent a lot. There's a reason for that because he's trying to be dry. He doesn't want to use, he doesn't take out his thesaurus. Decent is what you believe it to be. Decent meaning a decent penetration on price or maybe a small penetration on price on heavy volume. Uh, uh, Michael is a professional. He knows what he's doing, and I frequently compliment him and encourage you to contact him. But his work isn't inexpensive. I've been begging him to come up with a retail product, and I will continue doing that and leaving nasty voice messages for him to do that. But as it stands right now, his product is $5,000 a month. So I'm thankful that he lets me share this with you guys. He does oil as well, and he's as good on energy, if not better, than on precious metals. Okay, so moving down, downside, and writing this from the lower call, get short on these penetration. Okay, so 1202.30, basically, he's saying is an inflection point. So you want to be short the 1202.30 straddle and long the 1200 and 1204 strangle if you want to play in a volatility way. Keep looking at the downside because that's where we are going. He has warned of a multi-day pullback. Let me come back up to that. Solid trade below 1231 projects down. Okay, this is the stuff where he's just sorry to use the word golden. Here we go. On a short-term basis, the short-term bearish reversal is okay. This is what you want to focus on when you're looking when he starts making macro calls. The decent failure below 1219 warned of renewed pressure to come in likely for days. These aren't words he writes every day. A lot of times these are words that he just cuts and pastes because they still happen to be true. We've seen $21 of this so far. Decent trade below 1202 will project this downward $50. That's a big statement. That's on top of the other things. He's saying there's more weakness. He's calling in a way that I do not call it. He's saying we have a snowball chance lower. Decent trade below 1202 will project this downward $50. Do not ignore statements like that from this guy. You got to figure out what decent means to you. But this is based off on, here we go. Here's a clarification. This is based off on okay formed pattern, and there is a minor exhaustion level to overcome at 1197. So why don't we just look at it this way? Between 1202.30 and 1197 and a half, between 1202.30, I would be out of longs. Below 1197 and a half, I would be short. Look, just translating how he writes. And it also may be truncated by a major exhaustion level down at 1160. You have to understand, he's implying that we're going to make new lows here if we get below 1160, no doubt. Uh, so just pay attention. The end of the year is coming. The end of the year is coming. That's important. It's important because anyone who's long, who remains long, is going to get out. And a lot of your micro cap, micro short sellers, algo short sellers are still playing, and allocations haven't come in. That looking at charts today, looking for VBS levels, it's 822. That yellow line I draw there that we're just hovering below, that is, let me go sideways here. Let me not go sideways since it's going to, okay. Somebody messed with the blog. I'm going to blame myself. That yellow line I've had there for a while, connecting several top wicks, and coincidentally, it seems to be a pause area. Sure, get short below it if you want. I'm not, but because we're 3 days into a down move. So I have nothing on the VBS or RTM signals today on the daily level. We're already into one. On a weekly level, we're getting tight again. So uh, uh, we could break below the lower Bollinger Band, but that's not a signal. I'm not going to tell you why, except to say that two of the criteria are not met yet. I would say in 1 to 3 weeks, we will have a weekly volatility signal. It does not help you on a daily basis. Again, more no apparent help. Monthly, we had a nice reversal 2 months ago, and now it's completely negated, and it looks like a resumption of a bear trend. That monthly chart there is looking more like a bear flag than a reversal now. Okay, so now we go to active trading. That yellow line is the line I have from the daily chart being drawn down. Looks like we're below it as of this writing. Um, you know, the hourly, and I don't like to trade the first hour of the market. The hourly says nothing, but it will say in the next hour uh, uh, to get short if we come in below a certain level. Look for that in the act. I may be shorting gold today on an hourly basis if I get a break lower on the hourly basis after the first hour. I may, and the reason I say I'm not necessarily going to do it is because we'll get a signal from an unsafe risk reward level, but it may be a good signal for direction. So I may be risking one to make one with a high probability of making that one. 824, okay, 240-minute, no apparent help. Well, I'm going to look at my signals in conjunction with that yellow line. Subscribe or request, copper futures, daily copper futures. Look at that. I mean, copper is looks like it's coming back into a downward sloping trend, but will it continue higher? I don't know, but I will say that's a pretty awfully long bull flag if it is one. I would say start really paying attention to the end of the year and allocations coming in. Commodities are much more transparent than stocks. Learning moment. Oil's behavior post Trump's comment reminds us of the axiom. Okay, right. What does that mean? That means that oil is in a bear market, and that anything said bullish will only slow down the descent. Anything said bearish will give people a reason to sell it. So even Trump, if you think he really doesn't know what he's doing, uh, uh, says something and oil goes lower. If you think he knows what he's doing and he says something and oil goes lower, well, he is. Mining stocks, I'm not going to get into this. I'll let you read it, but I thought I made complicated charts. Here's a nice little chart for you. I put this in here because gold stocks are things to play from a technical point of view. The story I put in there because it's partly sales pitch, but this is written by a fund, not the gold company itself. Again, he could be rationalizing position. And we end with, if those of you are not comic book fans, I pity you. I am a comic book fan, not just as a person who's in denial of reality, but comic books are our last tie to the old gods. This is a gift. Apparently, it didn't move. Stan Lee died yesterday. Stan Lee is creator of Spider-Man. Uh, uh, for today, I'm going to force the analogy and say Spider-Man is gold longs and Superman is the Fed. There you go. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. Rest in peace, gold longs for this year. And I think we're going to have a good year next year, only after QT ends or shows a sign of ending. I think gold. Okay, gold's going to go up when the S&P hits 2,000. I'll say that again. Have a great day, everyone. Look for you in the chat room. John, I hope I answered your question, and I'll look for follow-up questions during the AM roadmap with Larry. Thank you very much, Michael. See you all in the room.